As a Grand Blades is working to bring you specifications you can relate to so you can have an educated decision on your purchases. This is going to be somewhat of an interesting topic. Benchmade Narrows is one that people are either really love it or really hate it. This is one of the knives that I thought was very nice when I saw it over at SHOT Show. But this is a Narrows, which is this knife here. So I think it looks good. Some of the weight relief looks a little interesting as far as it being on the outside and the inside in the same location. But that does bring it down to that narrow shape. But I did not know, maybe some of you guys did, I did not know you can patent a design. So that's one thing that I came across with this company or with this knife, is that you can patent a design. So if you look on the blade, they advertise it. So you can go over to their website, so their patent listing. So that goes through all the different patents that they have. And I thought patents were more of a mechanism type of thing. But this is actually one that is a patent for the way it looks. So that's where it is an interesting thing that I didn't even think that you could do for a look of a knife being patented, other than maybe a trademark or something like that, as far as circle or something else that was, it's a little different. And I just didn't know that for a knife. So they've been doing it for years. So I guess that's something to look into. But that's the different sizing for basically the narrows to the bug out. And then there's not a lot of weight difference between it. So, I mean, you got basically the bug out, the base one, 1.7 to about 2.3. So about 3/4. So basically that's the difference. So pop 3/4 onto a bug out. And that's what you have for this one, titanium. And also going to be that M390 for the blade steel. Basically, there's probably a lot of defects that come about in making things so thin. It has a lot of engineering that went into it to basically come up with everything with the knife that will probably go down to other models later. So I guess in a way you can probably think about like the fashion industry, I guess, where it's like really, really expensive or something that's really outlandish, and it slowly goes down to their general market. And then that's just how it is. I mean, so many things that we come across. So it's a little bit of ranty. So be aware of that. So if you want to stick around that, there's a lot of people talking about it. But so it's most of the people in the industry or the enthusiasts really are into the minutia of, okay, well, this is what it costs, this is what it is, this is what it costs in China, this is what it costs here. Well, they're ripping us off. It's so much money. Why are they charging so much? How dare they? It's a business. I mean, they got to make money. They have people that are with them. So Benchmade for their LinkedIn account. So you basically have, according to them, it's 235 employees. They have their full facility that they have to pay for, their electricity, their medical, dental, all these other things for those folks. So there's a lot of money that goes into that. Then they have probably military contracts and all these other things that go along with it. So yes, they're probably profitable, but that's good. You would want a business to be profitable. But also a lot of their margin might come from the retail side because they are an international company. So they're sending their things out a lot. I mean, everywhere. I mean, everywhere has different Benchmade places. Most firearms places have Benchmade knives. People recognize it. So it's not really a butterfly tax. It's a known company that's been able to take care of their products. Yes, you can go and kind of nitpick every little thing about it and say, well, they could have done this better, that better. It's a full manufacturing company. So it's kind of hard to compare to as far as somebody else that's along that same lineup. But this was kind of interesting, just going back to that patent side. As far as actually being able to patent a design. So I went over to it. So this is their website. When you go over to the patent website on their blade, which is just kind of an odd thing to put onto a blade, but because it's there, I went down a rabbit hole. So bear with me or learn something. So this is their Benchmade website. So there's all their knives, all their patents. There's the Narrows. There's a patent number. So one thing good about it, you can kind of see who was behind the products because they are listed under the patent. So I went over to the Google patent site where I pulled this up. Now, so these are all the people that were involved, the inventors of the Narrows. So you have Brian, Anthony, Wes, and Nate. So those are the folks. They put in the patent in 2020. So you figure that the patent was put in there. They probably were starting to design it maybe 2019, 2018. So you have a lot of work that went into it, a lot of testing that goes into products. And so it's not a matter of, I guess we get used to, that's one thing that's hard about the industry now is you get used to a design being shown to you and then, okay, well, it's available in, let's say 6 months or something. It's not a realistic expectation of how things operate, especially in a large company that's kind of building their portfolio probably years out for the products. So this is where you can see here, 2020 as far as when they put in for that patent. So this is where they put in for the design of the knife. So you have the different ones that we have here. So that's where it's just very interesting that they have a patent for the look. Never heard about it. So that's where I just learned something from just going down that rabbit hole and looking for information. So they were granted as far as May 2022 is when they're granted the patent, and it expires in 2037. So they have a patent on it, so you cannot copy the look of this knife. So that's one thing about it. But for these people, I was surprised that some of the folks that were part of the project, I think there's only two out of the 4 that are still there. So that's now one of the things that with anything, there's industry changes and people that change in businesses. First off on the list now that we have here for Ryan Dickman. So now he's over with Montana Knife Company, which is doing a great job. They've having a lot of expansion, but he was with them for a few years. So 8 years he was with Benchmade. So that's where he was one of the first one listed on that patent. So it's just a nice thing to know who was involved with it, because a lot of times the designers never get credited, or the people working on the products never get credited. So it's always just Benchmade Company, like who's the designer, who worked on it, you don't know, but this way you know. So Anthony's the next guy up. So Anthony is product manager, but he's no longer with Benchmade as well. So he's with SIG now for him. And then Wes, he is still a design engineer with Benchmade. So Wes is still there. Doesn't have a picture for Wes. Nate is... so Nate's no longer with Benchmade either. So he's with there 3 years, and now has a new company that he's with. Wes has been there a long time. So Wes has probably seen everything that's come across, but he's been there for 24 years. So that's a really long term and a great thing to see there. But I guess going back about this, it's a long, like, okay, well, why'd you go there? What are you talking about? But there's a lot that goes into the product, a lot that goes into making things. So to say that, well, they're just ripping us off and then they're just gouging us, and it's like, that's years of work, years of R&D, a lot of man hours that went into probably making it, producing it. It just, if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, then buy something else. But there's just so many tirades and rants on as far as why you shouldn't buy it because a Benchmade is an evil company. I don't really think that's the case for it. Are there things that could be improved? Yeah, the detent is very low. It's like under a pound. It's like 0.5, 0.6 ounces to get it to pull out. So you can actually, so that's just the blade kind of wrapping in there. Could that be improved? Possibly. This might be maybe a different lobe for it, but I'm also not the engineer. I'm not the designer for this knife. And they maybe tried it and it just like, well, that didn't work as well. And we like it this way, and this is the way it went out. Is it a safety issue? No, because you have it in your pocket with the blade to your seam of your pocket. So it's not an issue there. Blade now sharpening is good. You have different thicknesses, so you're going to have a little bit of different width of the actual sharpening for it. But that's where it's good. And then it's probably their select sharpness, because it's like, I think it's about 15, 16 degrees for the sharpened edge, which is very, very thin. And so it's not a mirror edge. This is something I picked up for a little microscope for something else I was doing, but just allows you to see where that edge is. So it is maybe a little bit thicker on one side than the other, but it still cuts well. So I don't know. It's just something that's different about it. So you have the Benchmade logo there. It's hard to say what is worth it, because sometimes people will spend a lot more. Go into the watch industry, watch videos on some of that stuff, and some of that things are like $20,000, $200,000 for a watch. A lot of work went into it, but some of the watches, like, not a lot of work went into it. It's still expensive because people put value on things, and that's just how it is. But that is the knife. Right left hand carry for the blade. It is one that is a good size for it, but we're going to take a little break and go and do an unboxing. So we have now one of these knives came in. So I'm clean cut right through there for the jersey from Nick Riggy. So this is his production that he had for it. Also, we have another knife coming out for Ryan. So we have the Aries that's coming out. We also do have the Cetus that's still on the site. So if you want to pick up a Cetus, that's available too. But we're just going through this little quick unboxing during the video while I'm kind of ranting about different things. And if you're here, then that's good. If you disagree, then let me know. But that's where I think there's a lot of things that happen. It's valid as far as pricing for some of the things. So that's going to be Nick's knife for the jersey. And he did have one that's, oh, that's actually smooth. So he did have one that was actually a custom laser engraved. So he did some laser engraving for it. There you go. So he did this on a laser engraver that he has. So that's what he put on there for that laser engraving. On the show side there. So that's the two knives there. So available on his website. So for Nick Riggy, otherwise check out the what is going on with the other knives, Orion knife side. And so that's where it's somewhat of a kind of understanding as far as some of those things. I'm nowhere near any of that as far as the size, but not a bad knife. Does what it needs to. Had a pleasure carrying it. Had a pleasure using it for the short period I have with it. I didn't buy it. Will I buy it for $522, $560 plus dollars? No, probably not. But it was worth checking out. And if you like it, then buy it. If you don't like it, then don't buy it. But it's not a matter of, I don't think it's a matter of them just pumping out things to just get them out to you guys, and they're having these major profit margins that are ridiculous, and you should write them off and everything else. So that's my thought on it. But let me know what you guys think. But that's all I have to say about that one today.